Coming up on What's the Hoops, there will be a new champion in Class 2A. Ken O'Gorman continues to stay spotless, though. And also in Class A, there's two unbeaten teams who are actually considered underdogs. We'll talk about that. And in the B classes, literally anything could happen. Who knows what will happen? We'll look at those games ahead. All that coming up next on What's the Hoops. Hello, and thank you for joining us on What's the Hoops. I'm Darron Wallace, Jason Andera, Jandy, if you're a friend of the show. And Jandy, it's all set. The final state tournaments for Class A, 2A, and Class B on both the boys and the girls side. So no more waiting. It's all done. We're down to the last 8.
Today's show is dedicated to the girls' state tournament, but congratulations to all those teams that qualified on Tuesday to play in the boys' state tournament. We'll cover that next Wednesday. So if you're looking for a preview on that, it's coming. But today, it's all about girls basketball.
Yep, all about the girls, and we'll start in Class B. Let's start low, work our way high. Right. And when I say low, I mean in terms of size, not that the quality of basketball is any lower. But in Class B, we'll go 1 through 8. We've got the 1 and 8 matchup, Arlington and James Valley Christian. The 4-5 matchup, Ethan and Wall. The 2-7 matchup, Hardin County and Lyman. And the 3-6 matchup, Centerville and Warner. Lots of intriguing matchups here. Some of the top players to watch out for. Ava Lingeman, who we've talked about on this show a little bit, from Ethan. Max Scott from Lyman. Skylar Volmer from Lyman. We've got Alexa Gertz from JVC. Marissa Storm from Ethan. Jalen Huntemer from Arlington. These are some of the top scorers, some of the top players in that class. Again, these games are going to be played in Rapid City. A little bit of a trek from Sioux Falls, but should be exciting. So if you can get out there, like I always say, go out and check out these kids. Anything that intrigues you about these matchups?
Yeah, you're looking at, like we said, some of the top scorers in the class. Ava Lingman has been on fire all year, hitting those three-pointers for Ethan. I think she's going to be fun to watch. But then Lyman with those two big-time players, and Max Scott and Skylar Volmer are going to be really tough to watch. But as far as these matchups, really interesting to me is that 1-8 matchup. James Valley Christian taking on Arlington. JVC worked their way into the tournament. They were the only team to get in quote-unquote upset in the Sodak 16. But they've played Arlington already this year, and they played them to a 2-point game. You usually don't have a 1-8 matchup where you have two teams so close together. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. JVC has a few more seniors. Arlington's a little younger. I mean, anything could happen in that game. The 4-5, you've got Ethan and Wall. Ethan all season long has been one of the best teams. They've been ranked number 1 most of the year. They fell to Freeman, and they lost 2 games total, which kind of knocked them down a little bit seed point-wise. And they have to take on Wall. Wall, remember, preseason was the number 1 team. They were the team to watch. They've had state tournament runs before. Wall could be a really tough matchup. So 4-5, I feel bad for both those two teams that they have to play that game in the first round. And then Hardin County, Lyman. Hardin County, one team who hasn't lost all year, but their strength of schedule obviously not as tough. But they average over 20 steals per game. We'll see if that translates once they get to tougher competition, playing teams like Lyman, who really do a good job of moving the ball, taking care of the ball. They like that matchup lengthwise. I think that's going to give Hardin County some problems. Maybe they don't go as deep as some of these other teams, but I think at the top, Lyman has, maybe the best starting 5 in this thing. So that'll be fun. And then Centerville taking on Warner. That's one that, we haven't talked about Warner hardly at all this year, but they haven't lost to a team in Class A. So that's going to be really interesting. And Centerville also hasn't lost to a team in Class B. Excuse me, Class B, not Class A. So those two teams have tough matchups in the first round. I think all 4 of these matchups could be incredibly good games out in Rapid City. Yeah,
you mentioned, again, Warner, a team that people haven't really been talking about much, not losing to a team in Class B. I think that can be a little bit surprising, or rather, they could be a team to watch out for. Where really all these teams, they're obviously seeded 1 through 8, but it doesn't necessarily feel like any one team particularly stands up far apart from the rest. Like, it should be
usually you have a 1 seed that comes in as a dominant 1 seed. Like, Arlington's good, no doubt, but they've been out of the polls most of the year, worked their way in right at the end of the year, and they're the number 1 seed. They've got a really young team. So just the way the seed points worked out, they played a tough schedule, only lost 2 games. But who's the favorite? Who knows?
Right. Well,
this is crazy.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Right.
Let's make a couple of picks. Let's make a couple of picks. Who do you have taking it home and hoisting that trophy at the end of it all?
I think in the first round, we're going to see one upset. I think Wall is going to find a way to beat Ethan, and Ethan is a really good team. They played great defense. I just love the way Wall shoots the ball. If Wall can make their shots from the outside, I think they get the upset in this one. I think Lyman also gets the upset in the first round, and then as we move to the semis, I think Centerville finds a way to get it done. And I think Wall also has a good chance of winning. So I've got Wall and Centerville in the finals, and I'm taking Wall to win it all. I think Wall is going to hit their stride at this time of the year. They started out as the preseason number 1. Went through a couple troubles, but I think they're going to work their way back out to being on top at the end.
All right, well, Wall to win it all. I love chaos. I say it on our Summit League show, so I'll bring it over here. I'll bring that same energy. I actually think JVC, like you said, they played so close the first time. I think that could be a matchup where maybe the quote-unquote underdog, the lower seed, actually plays a little chip on their shoulder. They can get that win. I like Wall as well. When you can shoot the outside shot, it is a little tough to rely on jump shooting in the postseason, but when you do knock down those shots, threes are greater than twos. That goes a long way. I like Wall on that one. Lyman, I also like with the upset. I like the combination of Max Scott and Skylar Vollmer.
Yeah.
When you have two players like that in the postseason to lean on, it can really carry you a long way. And then you said it, Warner hasn't lost to a Class B team. I'm actually going to take Warner to continue that trend and keep on rolling. And then I would actually like them to continue that trend in the semifinal as well, making the final. And then I would actually think JVC can shock Wall. You mentioned the varying experience. Again, I like Wall's outside shooting, but relying on that in the postseason, doing it back-to-back games is a little bit tough.
JVC's a good team.
Right. And in the championship, I'm going to go with Warner. They haven't lost to a team in Class B. I'm riding with Warner. So Warner, go out there and make me proud.
You know what? If nothing else, we've got some great bulletin board material for all you in Class B. Because, you could tell by both of our picks, anything could happen here. And then, neither of us picked Ethan to win in the first round. But I'll tell you what, that's a team that could easily win this whole thing. Yeah. For more information, just remember to check out midcosports.com. Go to the blog, and we've got a little more in-depth, some comments from the coaches. Make sure you check that out as well.
Ethan does have the best players, so if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead and do that.
It's happening.
Yeah. Let's move up to Class A with one of the most exciting players that South Dakota's seen in a very long time, in Katie Vasika. Really decorated section over here. So this is going down in Brookings in the Dakota Center. The 1 seed, Sisseton, will be taking on MVP in Mount Vernon Plankinton, led by, of course, Emily Fox, who we covered in the wonderful story done by our own Jason Andera. Please check it out if you haven't. It's a great profile on those the Fab Five, all from South Dakota.
They're very nice.
Yes.
And they all compliment each other. Yeah. I love that.
Then the 4-5 matchup, Vermilion against Mapia Luta. The 2-7 matchup, Sioux Falls Christian and Hanson. And then the 3-6 matchup, 3 Flandreau and 6 T area. 2 of those Fab 5 going head-to-head in the first round. So only one of those two, Claire Shepard and Katie Vasika, can continue their high school careers. So I don't know about you, Jandy. That's one I've got circled. But there's a lot of good matchups, a lot of good players, too. Of course, Katie Vasika and Emily Fox, who we mentioned, Krista Langager. From Sisseton, we've got Jodine Hunter, Reagan Russ, Mara Grant, of course, Claire Shepard, who's, she's only averaging 13.9 a game, so she's down.
But I'll tell you, all those Flandreau players
score.
All spread out. And you forget about Lily Klein, who's going to Northern State. She's their leading scorer on Flandreau, and Claire Shepard, a lot of times, as you watch them play, will defer. She's defense first, but still can pick up 14 points with no problem.
Right. So those are some of the top players. Of course, you can check out our blog to see some of the rest of those players that are on that list. But this is a really exciting group and a really exciting section. So tell us a little bit about the matchups just going down the list. I think this could be much like Class B, where it might be a little closer than it may appear in terms of seeding.
Yeah, definitely. An MVP making it to the state tournament. Congratulations to you guys, first of all, because Region 5A was a killer, and they found a way to win in that region. Got to state. This was a huge goal for MVP all season long. So congrats to them. Sisseton, only the one loss all year. They lost in that NEC DAC 12 Classic to Sioux Falls Christian in a close one, but they might be the most well-rounded team. And Krista Lonhager has had a phenomenal year as a junior.
Thanks for letting me say her name.
Yeah, that's all right. I had to ask. Trust me, I haven't had to ask Coach Lincoln, how do you say that? And I've said it and spelled it wrong, but it's Lonhager. But MVP Sisseton is going to be a tremendous game. I think both teams are really going to have to be at their best to win that one. That's going to be good. Vermilion and Mapialuta. I'll tell you what, Vermilion's had the toughest schedule of anybody in Class A all season long. Yes, they've had a couple losses, 4 losses, but they've got a trio of players who are all double-digit scorers, including Brooke Jensen, the junior who's headed out to Augustana and Cleveland, and then Reavers. They've got so many attackers that can go downhill and get buckets right at the hoop. But Mapialuta, they won the NLI, the Lakota.
LNI, Dakota Nation Invitational.
It's NIL. You got signing day, you got NLI, and then you got the LNI. So they won the LNI early this season, and people say, well, they haven't played as tough of a schedule. But I'll tell you what, they have a 32.2 points per game advantage over opponents over 500. So those people that they have played over 500, they've been crushing. I think Red Cloud or Mapialuta, whatever you want to call them, is one of the best teams, the best secrets in this tournament. That's going to be fun. Sioux Falls Christians had an outstanding year. Hanson with their coach, Jim Bridge, being the all-time winningest coach. He's got a really good group of young players, and they've played a tremendously hard schedule as well. And then Flandreau T area. I don't know if there's going to be a better game than this one. You got Flandreau. They've played more Class B teams, but they're undefeated, and they're an improved team over last year that made it a run at the state tournament. And then you've got T, who played the most double-A teams. So both these teams playing teams out of class, and that's why T area suffered 4 losses. They lost to some really good teams this year in Sioux Falls Christian and teams like that. But quality on the court, that's the one I'm really looking forward to. Mara Grant, Lily Klein, of course, Claire Shepard and Katie Vasika. So many good players on the court at the same time. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so here we go again. Let's make some picks. I know it won't be easy, and it could be bulletin board material,
yes.
But of course, that's what we do on this show.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, who do you expect to make it out of this section and be named Class A champs of 2024?
I think I've always thought Sisseton was one of the best teams here in this class, and I think they're going to find a way to beat MVP. I mean, Emily Fox and Reagan Russ have had a tremendous year, but you put some big post players like Sisseton has out there, I think they get the W. I think Mapialuta is tremendous. I think they're going to have a coming out party here, and they're going to find a way to beat Vermilion. I think Sioux Falls Christian has been one of the best teams all year. They feel like they're going to win their first round game. And the Flandreau T game, I mean, literally flip a coin, but I'm going with Katie Vasika. I think she's the best player in this tournament. And this is her first time at state. She is going to find a way to make it happen. So T is going to go on and get revenge on Sioux Falls Christian, make it to the finals. And I think Mapialuta is a team, they're on a mission. I think they're going to find a way to beat Sisseton. And then in the finals, I don't know, man. I got to go with Katie Vasika. I mean, this is a team that's really struggled to win those big games over the last few years, but I think this year there's something special when your 2 best players, Mara Grant and Katie Vasika, are seniors and they've seen it all. I think they're going to find a way to make this happen.
Yeah, I think you won't be surprised to see which way I lean in my section. But again, I'm going to be riding with. I'm going to be riding with Emily Fox. I know, like you said, they haven't had much experience at this point of the year.
Could happen, though.
But I think again, like I was saying, when you have that type of a player in an Emily Fox who can, I mean, she's shooting Caitlin Clark step back threes. So I'm just gonna, Sisseton definitely has the size advantage. Yeah. I think they have the better team. But I think if you run into a situation where Emily Fox scores, 34, 35 points.
And they've been on fire defensively too.
Right.
In the playoffs, they're holding teams under 40 points just in the playoffs.
Right. So if you run into an Emily Fox masterclass and they continue the defensive performance that they've been putting on lately in the postseason, I think they can pull off wouldn't call it a shocking upset, but I think they could pull off the upset. Yeah. I'm riding with you on Mapialuta. I think, again, when you just look at how they've been playing against good teams, and when you look at the point differential against those good teams, that carries into the postseason. It travels with you, so they can go on that run. I think they win there. Sioux Falls Christian, been solid all year. I don't expect that to change. Hanson, a really good team, but I think Sioux Falls Christian just a little too much firepower for them. But then you get to Flandreau and T, and you said it. You can flip a coin. 2 really good teams, a lot of really good players on both teams. But again, I'm going to be riding with Katie Vasika. I think she's been the best player in South Dakota all year long. I don't think her journey ends after just for the first round in the tournament. And it's tough to say that because she's going against a really good team with really good players.
I would not be shocked if those two are guarding each other. I think Claire Shepard's going to be on Vasika like glue, but I think the role players in this game, the Morgan Shepards, the Lily Kleins, the Mara Grants and the Ellie Claybergs, I think those are the players that are going to make a big difference, even though those stars are on the court.
Absolutely, and then I'll be riding with the Vasika train in the semifinals as well. I think they get some revenge against Sioux Falls Christian, like you said. Haven't shown up in those big games, but all the games that they've played against those good teams, they've been against bigger schools, and it's tougher to win those games. Nonetheless, they've been competitive in a lot of them, and really could have won that game against Sioux Falls Christian. So I think that they get the revenge that they're looking for. They advance, and then. Again, I think I want to ride the Emily Fox wave into the championship, but I think Mapia Lutz is just too complete of a team where even if you have that big performance by an Emily Fox type of player, I think it's just not enough to overcome.
They just run such a great pace.
Right. They play fast. They play, that balanced attack kind of thing. I mean, you have
a couple different scores.
Yeah, they have a couple players. I mean, they have two players averaging over 15 points a game. So they get scoring from different players, different avenues. So I think they keep rolling. And then I think in the championship, though, I'm going to be riding with you. T-Area. I think Katie Vasika is on a mission, and I think he gets it done. I think she's not just one of the best players in South Dakota. She's one of the best players in the country. And I think, it's hard to bet against that in the postseason. So I'm going to be riding with the Titans.
Two classes we've made picks on, and we have no 1 or 2 seeds, making it to Saturday night.
Yeah,
so keep watching. You're going to get some definite bulletin board material, but we've got some underdogs winning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's March. Why not root for some chaos, right?
Right.
So that's our Class A pick. Now I'll move over to our last class, Class 2A, AA, however you like to say it. It should be a doozy. We got number 1 seeded O'Gorman, no surprises there, taking on 8 seeded Rapid City Stevens. Then the 4-5 matchup, Sioux Falls Jefferson with Brinley Altenberg, who I'm a huge fan of. They'll be taking on Pierre. Then in the 2-7 game, Mitchell and Harrisburg. And then in the 3-6 game, we've got Brandon Valley and Spearfish. So again, another really loaded section with a lot of really good teams. Some of the players to watch for, of course, you got Talia Porter from Rapid City Stevens, averaging almost 20 points a game. Brinley Altenberg, who I mentioned, who I think is playing well beyond her years, only a freshman, but plays like she's been playing in high school her whole life. Molly Abdouche, of course, one of the Fab Five, going to SDSU. Sawyer Stobner, Lennox Dupree, Addie Seamson, Jaden Dunn from Jefferson, Abby Flanagan. So many really, really good players. Again, you can check out the blog if you want to see the rest of the list of all the top scorers in Class 2A. But again, a really tough section to call. But I think at the end of the day, could kind of shake out how maybe the Women's Summit League has shaken out this year, where there's some good teams, but I think we really know.
You got one clear favorite.
Right.
You got one clear favorite here, and you got a lot of other good teams.
Right.
And I think O'Gorman Stevens, I mean, that's going to be a fun game. They played a really low-scoring game during the regular season. One of the teams that held O'Gorman under 50 points. So, that's something to watch if Rapid City Stevens can get on that defensive train and maybe hold down or at least slow down the game against O'Gorman. Jefferson Pierre, they played in the regular season. Pierre got the upset on the road in that one and really vaulted their seed at the end of the year. They were hanging out in that 9-10 range a lot of the year. They went up to 7 and moved all the way up to 5. So they've got a chance against Jefferson. But Jefferson's never lost a first-round state title game. Of course, the school's only 3 years old, but last 2 years in a row, they got an upset in 8-1 2 years ago, and then last year won their first-round game as well. So don't count out Shantiva Pruitt. She does a great job of coaching in the state tournament. Mitchell Harrisburg played an unbelievable game back in January, a 2-point game. One of those tests that Mitchell kept getting tested, and they kept getting the wins. They kept getting those wins against close games, against Jefferson, against Pierre, against Harrisburg. They're beating those teams. But this will be tough to do again, when you play a tough team like that twice in the same season. And then Brandon Valley Spearfish. Spearfish kind of reminds me of what Pierre did last year. They got on that roll and went all the way to the state title game with some really good juniors. And that's kind of what Spearfish has this year. A couple of juniors leading their team. But Brandon Valley has a couple sophomores leading their team who have really played well. And I love the way the Lynx have really come together defensively, making some switches throughout the year. So I really like that team as well. But there's going to be 4 great matchups on Thursday.
All right, let's make those picks. What are we leaning? What are we thinking?
Let's take O'Gorman to take care of business against Stevens. I think people might call me crazy if I don't make that pick, but they're going to be really good. And then you got Jefferson Pierre. Second time around, I think Jefferson does get them this time. Reese Terwilliger had a big game the first time. I think Jaden Dunn's going to find a way to keep her under wraps and to give Jefferson the win at the state tournament. Mitchell Harrisburg, this one I've gone back and forth on because Harrisburg definitely, the way they played in the Sodak 16 game against Washington, that team could beat anybody in the state. And they've been all the way up to number 2 in the seed points because that team's shown up before. Just when we get to a state tournament time, I really like Soria Stabner and her senior leadership. So give me Mitchell with the victory on that one. Brandon Valley, I think, gets Spearfish this time, although I think that could be closer than people think. And then when we get to Friday night, I really like this Mitchell team, and I'm going to take them to get to the finals once again. Again, a close game. They'll play with Brandon, but I think they're going to find a way to get it done. And then O'Gorman is the pick on the top of the bracket. So we got O'Gorman, Mitchell, and those two teams played really, really close over 3 quarters. But the fourth quarter, when they played in the regular season, belonged to O'Gorman. And unfortunately, I think that's kind of what's going to happen again. I think they're just a better team, and they can go 4 quarters. Mitchell might not have enough depth to win their 3rd game in 3 days.
All right. Well, I think, again, this kind of feels like a situation where, again, O'Gorman kind of stands alone at the top. But it is the postseason, and it is just one game, and anything can happen. O'Gorman hasn't been, they've been unbeatable, but they haven't had moments. Again, like you said, they played Mitchell really tight through 3 quarters.
Yeah, they've had a lot of games where they've been close part of the way, yeah.
Yeah, and they were able to pull away in the 4th. I think they take care of business against Stevens, and they win relatively easily. I won't count Talia Porter out. When you score almost 20 points a game, having a big game against a good team.
Just a junior.
Right, so she's got another year of high school, but I think right now O'Gorman's just a well-oiled machine. They should take care of business relatively easily, but of course, like I always say, anything can happen. They did play already, and like you said, one of the teams to hold O'Gorman under 50, so maybe they can ride that wave. Who knows? The 4-5 matchup, Jefferson and Pierre. Again, I'm going to take Jefferson in this one. I think just a player like Altenberg, when you have her matched up in a combination with Jaden Dunn, it's a tough matchup in the postseason. Your stars, your good players. When they show up in the postseason, that's their time to do it in these kind of big games. So I think they get the job done over Pierre. A little bit of a revenge game as well for Jefferson. Then Mitchell and Harrisburg. I really like Mitchell. I think Mitchell, we've talked about them all year, just how good they've been. A lot of people have been questioning just how good they are, but they're 19-2. Hard to deny a 19-2 team. I know they won a close one against Harrisburg before, but I think the rematch could look a little bit different. I'd expect maybe a little bit more of like a 8 to 10 point win as opposed to a 2-point win. And then Brandon Valley and Spearfish. I know you were high on Spearfish. You took Brandon Valley. I'll be taking Brandon Valley as well, though I will say, don't feel too confident about it because the way Spearfish has been playing, they could be one of those teams that goes on that run from the 6th seed. Then O'Gorman against Jefferson. I think, Jefferson played one of their worst games of the season against O'Gorman when they played. I don't think it's that type of a game. I think it's a lot closer. But I think O'Gorman.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a long time ago. Jefferson's a different team now. But I think O'Gorman's just a little too much firepower. They're just so good. They don't just. Obviously you see the name Molly Abdouche and you think, oh well, it makes sense why they're so good. But I just don't see O'Gorman bailing out in the semifinals. They've just been really good all year long. I think they continue that. It'll be much closer. I think it'll be much closer than it was the first time they played. But I'm giving the edge to O'Gorman. And then I think, this Mitchell team, I know, again, people have been doubting them, but I think this Mitchell team, they're not far off from O'Gorman. Again, they played them so close. I think it was just that 4th quarter things got away from them. If they play like they did in those 3 quarters against O'Gorman, I think they can make it to the finals.
Hopefully they
relatively
learn something
easily
from that game.
Right, exactly. So I think they make it to the finals, and I think we get a rematch in the championship game. And I'm going to pick the 1 seed again. I'm going to pick O'Gorman. It seems easy on paper, but when you watch them play, it makes sense why they're undefeated. They're so really long. Sound. They're so long. Yeah, they got positional size, and especially in high school, that stuff matters. When your point guard, Molly's, she's got length. She's not like super small. Like she's a good sized point guard. You got length all across the board, and that's tough to match up with for 4 quarters. And I mean, you saw it in that game against Mitchell. So I'm riding with O'Gorman. I think they're the 1 seed that takes care of business. Like you said, we hadn't picked a 1 seed until now.
Yeah.
But I think with O'Gorman, it's a little bit easier to make that pick.
And they've got a good supporting cast, too. We talk a lot about Molly Abdouche, but Lucy Moore's had a really good year, another NSIC player that we're going to see next year. And obviously the length on the inside, I think that's what turns people over. They get them playing faster than they want, and they have the conditioning to go the distance. So even if they get into a close game, they usually win the 4th quarter. So I think we agree on that one. We are going to have a lot of wrong picks, I believe, but we did our best.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah, right. But it all goes down this weekend. Can't wait to see to see what happens in these different sections. Really looking forward to a lot of the matchups featuring the Division I players that we talked about, even other than the ones that we named outright. I mean, there's a ton of talent on the girls' side around the state. Yeah, a lot of good. I mean, NSIC, we just carried the NSIC tournament. Yeah. A lot of great basketball being played there. So for some of these players who are going to the NSIC, they're going to be really good to be joining that conference. So should be some really good matchups all around the state. That'll do it for this edition of What's the Hoops. This has been your girls basketball state tournament preview with myself and Jandy. Of course, we'll be talking boys basketball next week. Should be just as good as the girls. Can't wait for the girls to get us all started. If you're around the area, if you're near Brookings, near Rapid City, or near Sioux Falls, check out some of these games. These kids are unbelievable. Check them out. I know we'll be there amidst all our other duties, but we can't miss some of this postseason action.
You got it.
That'll do it for this episode of What's the Hoops. Catch you guys next time.